as a special education teacher for 30 years, 10 of those as the department chair of Downers Grove South. And Sassano was known as a calm, caring, and passionate advocate for her students. Always one to power through adversity and not allow herself to feel too much. Anne will share with us how that all changed when she needed to help her adult children through their challenges, and as a result, open her own heart to embrace all of life's messiness. Anne Sassano.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Dale and Cindy for inviting me to come here tonight because, as Cindy said and Dale, I think I have been to almost every single one of the Everyday Week, and I have gotten so much out of it personally that I'm just an honor that they asked me to come and talk tonight. It was September 2011, and I was standing on the steps of the Downers Grove Post Office when I got a frantic phone call from my daughter, Emma. Something was really wrong. She told me that she couldn't stop running, exercising, she couldn't eat, she was cold, lonely, and isolated. A neon sign was blinking loud and clear, eating disorder. Emma, and here she is with our dog, who I have to say thinks she's a person in our family, so I had no pictures without her that I like, so thank you, bear with me. Emma had always been a pretty happy kid, but I felt like her path took a dramatic turn that sunny fall afternoon. Through many phone calls with Emma and the social worker at the university's health center, I decided that I needed to get to Denver quickly. I was going to help her finish the quarter. There were 2 weeks left to go at this point. When I arrived at the airport, I called the social worker to let her know that I was there and everything was going to be better. She was not impressed. I felt like I was following my heart to help my daughter. I didn't realize at the time what a constricted vessel it was, figuratively and literally, as it turned out. I'm in Denver. Emma and I are having dinner at a restaurant, and I begin to realize that she is having an anxiety attack over the fried seitan, aka chicken wings, that we ordered. And then I begin to feel anxious. My heart starts to race, the room gets hot. The next thing I know, I'm being taken out of the restaurant by ambulance to the emergency room. I passed out at the dinner table twice. I spent the night in the hospital, my rental car somewhere on the street in Denver, cell phone dead. After a thorough examination, the doctors concluded there was nothing physically wrong with me. My heart was working correctly, mechanically, or on the outside. I had a venous vagal attack, which is another name for a reaction to extreme distress, otherwise known as the fight or flight syndrome. Made sense. This was the beginning of the work I needed to do to open my heart from the inside, to have a healthy heart, emotionally speaking. Now, when I say open my heart, I mean having the capacity to see and feel my surroundings, situations, or circumstances with a clear focus. I had always been, I thought, really good at coping with life and what it threw at me. My heroine was Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind, one of my all-time favorite movies. And I think it's important to tell you here that I have a tendency to compare situations to TV shows, movies, and books. I like to live in this little alternate universe. Well, Scarlett was one tough cookie. When her life on the plantation crumbled and Atlanta was burning before her eyes, her mantra was, I can't think about that right now. If I do, I'll go crazy. I'll think about that tomorrow. She was able to power through really tough situations and lead others to safety. The catch was her tomorrows never came. She never stopped to really see and feel what was happening. My inner Scarlett came out in full force in 1999 when my very wonderful husband was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. I powered through. I went to work every day, kept vigil at the hospital, and fiercely protected my elementary school-age children. I gladly accepted support from family, friends, colleagues, the school community. That was not a problem for me. What I didn't know how to do was really talk about what we were feeling as a family and as individuals. When Emma asked if Daddy was going to die, I responded, of course not, he'll be fine. I never circled back to what she was thinking and feeling. I was probably too scared. My heart was in pure protection mode and still closed. Emma's experience with an eating disorder was the first crack. I learned so much. I came to the realization that I suffered from an eating disorder myself. It started in high school. I was scheduled into a senior lunch period my first year, and I was embarrassed to eat in the school cafeteria. So I didn't eat all day until I got home, binged ate, and then did not eat for a few days. This was the start of a very long, at least 30 years, unhealthy relationship with food and exercise. The not eating food restriction turned into compulsive exercise. I knew the compulsive eating was not normal, but thought it wasn't unusually not normal. Because you hear people say all the time that that they eat too much under stress. The compulsive exercise turned into compulsive running. By compulsive, I mean I had to do it no matter what, or my life would not be right. This cycle of binging, then engaging in a compensatory activity is called bulimia. I ran and ran, including triathlons and 2 marathons. Now people watch you and they think this is a great accomplishment. You're so disciplined, healthy. But now I feel mostly shame regarding this behavior because for me it was a mask for fear and not identifying my feelings. This was difficult and a relief. It helped me to make sense of the extreme behaviors I felt compelled to engage in and rationalize as healthy. It also opened a floodgate to my emotions, and I needed to find balance. I learned a lot. I learned that eating disorders have a genetic base. They say nature loads the gun and the environment pulls the trigger. I learned that I had a lot of anxiety, and it was hidden by these behaviors. The interesting thing is that my husband always knew this. Whenever he would say to friends, "You think Ann is calm and laid back? She isn't underneath." We would all disregard this and laugh, including me. Very wise man. And the very weird thing is, as soon as I recognized this and coupled with my motivation to support Emma, my eating disorder behaviors stopped. Now I still have the thoughts, which I wrestle with and now know are not healthy. I now realize that these patterns are deeply ingrained and they are just old and tired stories that live in my mind. I don't act on them anymore and work hard to change this narrative. This was another opening into feeling with my heart. I could not keep this long-held secret anymore. I shared this personal struggle with my daughter, my family, and anyone who I felt earned my trust. Now, when this is all unfolding, my oldest child, Ian, just graduated from college. He is living at home. Not, here she is again. She thinks she's a person. Ian is living at home, not too unusual for his peers in this era, but something is not right. I couldn't put my finger on it specifically, but he wasn't looking for a job that matched his abilities, and he seemed preoccupied. He said he was fine, and I chose to believe him. That was the answer I wanted. Now, he did have a bout with anxiety his sophomore year in college. My husband and I consulted with a few professionals to try and figure this out. The conclusion was that he had a sort of emotional leakage, meaning he was holding all this pressure inside and it suddenly came out. He seemed to recover. He finished school with decent grades in 4 years, but there were no career goals or job prospects befitting a talented young man with a degree from U of I. At the time, my husband was traveling for work frequently, and Ian was the best listener and support system for me as I was trying to support Emma. He knew just what to say to comfort me and help me see situations from a different perspective. So I was very happy to have him around. Through family therapy, due to Emma's situation, it surfaced that Ian was suffering from OCD and depression. Now he couldn't hide anymore. It was too painful and hard. I had to come to the stark realization that both of my children had mental health challenges. It was difficult. I felt like I was riding the Ferris wheel and the bucket you sit in turned upside down and just stayed there. I had no idea how to get it upright again, which was what I desperately wanted. I had to say goodbye to Scarlett and learn how to move forward. This is not what I expected. I remember saving a quote from a novel, The Hour I First Believed by Walter Lamb. Life is messy, violent, confusing, and hopeful. I just never expected my life would be this messy and confusing when it came to my children. I had a script of how things would go and consistently ignored many warning signs along the way. In high school, Emma was an achiever. She was in multiple activities, tough courses, and of course got great grades. About once a quarter, she would have an emotional meltdown, and my husband and I would look at each other and say, "Oh, it's the quarterly meltdown." Life would move on, and we never dug deeper. We never made a systematic effort to help her figure out why this was happening. She graduated with honors at the top of her class, got into a great college. My script was rolling along. Ian came home from college after his first year and was clearly different. My kind of conservative teenager was now a very open and high energy, emotional young man. He went back to school, had what I thought was the sophomore slump, and went on to graduate. My script rolled on. I wanted it this way, and this is what I saw. My heart was not open to what was. What helped me? Many years of family therapy, individual therapy, psychoeducational programs, reading, yoga, supportive friends, family, coming here and listening to others share their stories, and having a close and caring relationship with both children and my husband. We talk openly, we love each other, we work through problems as a family. So following my heart meant opening my heart to feeling all the emotions, including fear and sadness, letting the real life situations into my heart instead of the ones I wanted. Acknowledging that Ian and Emma are kind, caring, courageous human beings who make me laugh and cry, who need to follow their own hearts, and that is not just okay, it is wonderful. We have this opportunity to spend time together as adults and build bonds that will hopefully be with us for the rest of our lives. One thing that I do think about sometimes is that in my role as an educator, I might not have always been as empathetic as needed. I felt that a world of understanding opened up to me through this struggle. I became much better at my job once I had these personal experiences. I mentioned this to a friend who has known me in both the personal and professional capacity for over 20 years. I asked her what she thought. She paused for a few seconds and said, "You were always a student advocate. That was your focus. It didn't always matter what the parents wanted or the teachers wanted. What the students needed came through." Wow, that felt great. I had been following my heart in an important way. As my heart began to let more in, I began to realize that secrets can hurt and can only grow in the dark. I also realized that systems can affect us in insidious ways. Our society and our schools have seen a dramatic increase in young people facing anxiety, depression, and suicide. Why is this so rampant? Maybe we need to be examples of following our hearts so our young people can follow theirs, as opposed to being overwhelmed by societal pressures, status, and perfectionism. I realized that what I did affected my children much more than my words. For example, I never engaged in diet or body image talk with Emma. She watched me and she learned. Today, I try to practice compassion, kindness, and balance in my daily activities and remember that every person is a multidimensional human being who should not be judged by their job, clothes, or their test scores. And every child just needs to feel unconditional love, even if they don't make the soccer team or attend the college of their choice. That is what is important. Our systems need to embrace structures that promote self-awareness and self-fulfillment that is meaningful to each individual, what is in their heart. To advance this cause, my husband and I followed our hearts to Washington, D.C. as part of the Eating Disorder Coalition. The EDC is the only policy-focused organization advocating for legislation that will support people with eating disorders. Eating disorders did have the highest mortality rate for mental health disorders until recently when the opioid addiction surpassed it. We thought this was important work. To travel to DC and meet with our legislative staff, we could share our personal story to help fight for healthcare legislation and practices that can increase eating disorder awareness and policy change. And the best part was we got to walk through the tunnel that connects the Senate to the House of Representatives. I really love that. My heart now holds these ideas. Believe in your ability to get through situations you have not imagined. Let go of preconceived expectations. Embrace the surprises life brings. They may hold gifts you have not imagined. It's nobody's fault. You can hold opposing emotions at the same time. See each person for who they are as a human being. I'm in a different place in my life today than I ever thought I would be, and I know tomorrow will be different than today. I humbly accept what is and what has been. And as Reese Witherspoon's character Madeline from Big Little Lies admitted, all of my future mistakes will be brand new ones.